Let's imagine the US federal government has Amazon-like efficiency. Would big government still be a problem? Or, if applied in the right areas, could state intervention drastically improve the lives and quality of life for American families? Could we have pro-social social programs that are actually good for society and encourage people to lead satisfying lives?
The government sure is awful, isn't it? It's tearing families apart, squandering our money on people who don't deserve it, and keeping healthcare costs so high that no one can bear to pay them. But if government is really screwing all these things up, should we really advocate a stronger government to fix these problems? Stay tuned to find out. Hello everyone, this is My Two Cents. This will be part 1 of my response to James Allsup's video, America Needs Bigger Government to Serve the People. Before I begin this video, I want everyone to know that I will be skipping the 3-minute intro, but as always, the link to the original will be in this video's corresponding blog post on mytwocentsvideos.com should you wish to view the original in its entirety. Let's get into it.
You ran an advertisement in a video about capitalism, owned libtard Venezuela bottom text.
For a bit of context, I'm picking up this video right after the intro, at which point Allsup ran an advertisement for his video's sponsor, and now he's predicting that libertarians like me are going to criticize him by saying that running an advertisement proves that capitalism works and therefore undercuts his argument for big government. Making such a claim would at best be a gross oversimplification, and in that regard Allsup is right to criticize it. But that being said, he is in fact proving that mutually beneficial transactions between consenting parties leave everyone better off. Allsup chooses to make YouTube videos that a considerable number of people choose to spend their time watching, as opposed to using that time to do something else. Businesses then pay Allsup a price that they both agree on in exchange for him giving their business a shout out because they believe his audience is likely to purchase their product. Every step of this process involves mutually consenting parties who believe they are better off having made the exchanges that they have. So good for you, James Allsup. You have in fact proved that capitalism works, although we've yet to see what this might imply about the power of government.
Let's put our big brain hats on and get down to business. How could big government, quote unquote, help families and the middle class?
Well, since government necessarily obtains its revenue through force and not voluntary transactions, the only way the government can help anyone is by using resources that it stole from someone else. I think the appropriate question is, does the government ever spend other people's money better than they do?
I heard a phrase recently that I like, pro-life for the whole life. The leftist critique that conservatives only care about babies in utero. They don't care about them after they're born. It's usually made by people who don't know what they're talking about and just want an excuse for abortion. But after recently having been through the childbirthing experience as a couple, not me obviously, they're not entirely wrong.
Well, I know Allsup doesn't share the views of the pro-choicers who typically make this argument. I still want to point out that the answer to this objection is that pro-lifers oppose the unjust killing of unborn children, but also oppose the stealing of other people's rightfully earned money. We fully support the existence of crisis pregnancy centers, other privately funded charities, and many in the pro-life crowd do eagerly seek to adopt children born out of crisis pregnancies. But the mere fact that I oppose the unjust killing of innocent children does not mean that I therefore must assume the parent's responsibilities to the child, any more than my opposition to wife beating means I must therefore marry and care for an abusive man's wife.
Our government should be encouraging people to have children and start families. Procreation should not be reserved only for the uber wealthy that can afford to pay all their medical expenses out of pocket, and for the dirt poor taken care of by welfare or that simply don't care about paying back their medical bills.
The same government with the power to promote having children and starting traditional families is also a government with the power to promote radical feminism, discouraging having children and starting families. I agree with Allsup that having children and starting families is a good thing, but how does Allsup intend to stop government from using that same authority to do just the opposite? As to the point about procreation not being reserved only for the wealthy, I'm not really sure what his point is, since economists have long noted that fertility rates are actually higher among the poor than among the wealthy. But putting that aside, if the concern here is that families should not have to be concerned about paying medical expenses related to children, the best solution would be to deregulate the healthcare industry and allow the free market to drive prices down. As author Julian Adorni writes, in our current system, Party A, the service provider, tells Party B, the customer, what they should buy. Party C, either the government or an insurance company, then pays for it. This deprives patients of the incentive to price compare because they're not directly paying for the services that Party A recommends. But when consumers are encouraged to factor in cost, prices fall. He goes on to show that this is exactly what has happened with elective medical procedures not covered by insurance, and there is no reason to think that the same wouldn't occur if regular medical expenses were left to the free market.
The system we have now screws over young people and working people, even if you have health insurance. Working and middle-class American families should be rewarded instead of punished for having kids. We need tax policies that reward people for having children. Married couples with children are the bedrock of communities, and ultimately the bedrock of a healthy, self-perpetuating civilization.
I agree. But again, the same government that has the power to promote the traditional family is one that can choose to disincentivize it through radical feminism later on. What limits do you think you can place on government to ensure that it always promotes the things you want it to promote? Further, what incentive does the government have to keep families intact? Stay-at-home parents can't be taxed, and children with involved parents are not as easily indoctrinated by government schools. It's no surprise then that when maintaining the family is made a responsibility of government, the government instead seeks to tear it down. If the traditional family is to be maintained, this will necessarily fall on the shoulders of individuals, not a government that has every incentive to tear the family down.
You should be rewarded with a lower tax rate. I would even entertain the idea of an unmarried tax that escalates with age. It stays flat until you get to 30, and then it starts creeping up. Our generation's fertility rates have fallen through the floor, partially due to societal atomization and the destruction of the relationship between men and women. That's all true, but partially because it's so darn expensive.
The tearing down of the relationship between men and women can be largely attributed to things like no-fault divorce laws, a court system that rewards women for divorcing their husbands, law enforcement agencies that are taught to assume men are guilty of abuse, even apart from evidence, education systems with curriculums written by radical feminists. The list goes on. All policy decisions on the part of government. As for high healthcare costs, this is again a problem that stems from not allowing consumer demand to determine prices, which results when government intervenes in the market. If it is indeed government that has so severely screwed up the issue of family and procreation, why are you so eager to leave it to government to fix it?
As automation increases, it's true that we won't need as many workers as we have in the past, but our society, our civilization, is still going to need people to perpetuate it. To protect American workers, the state should punish companies that outsource jobs away from Americans. They should be barred from receiving federal contracts. They should lose any tax incentives they may be getting. Apply tariffs to protect American industries. And as industries become untenable, like horse and buggy production or the manufacturing of typewriters, ease back the tariffs while retraining workers to respecialize in new industries.
I've already made a video debunking Allsup's defenses of protectionist policies before, but to sum it up, the only reason a company would want to ship jobs overseas is because maintaining those jobs in the US was unprofitable. All other things being equal, the only reason they would purchase foreign goods as opposed to American ones is because the foreign goods were cheaper and therefore left them more money to spend on other things. In the words of Mark Perry, it's a scientifically and mathematically provable fact that all tariffs at any time and in any country will harm economic growth, eliminate net jobs, destroy prosperity, and lower the standard of living of the protectionist country, because tariffs are guaranteed by the ironclad laws of economics to generate costs to consumers that outweigh the benefits to producers, i.e., tariffs will always impose deadweight losses on the protectionist country. That is the reality that tariffs always inflict great economic damage and leave society worse off is not a debatable outcome, rather it's a provable fact, like the law of gravity. Again, see my video responding to Allsup's defense of Trump's tariffs to learn more.
On healthcare, I simply don't think it's reasonable that young working people should have to stare down a $10,000 bill for bringing a new child into the world, or an $800 bill for a 90-second consultation at a walk-in clinic. That's real. Ask me how I know. Young working people are paying through the nose for emergencies and bringing children into the world, literally perpetuating our civilization, while Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security spend billions every year keeping geriatric people that don't take care of themselves alive.
I couldn't agree more. But I can't help but notice that all those programs you've just mentioned are government programs. Why then are you so eager to advocate strong government to solve this problem?
What is a better use of 10,000 federal dollars? To bring a healthy baby into the world, or to give a 300-pound, 85-year-old woman her fourth knee replacement? I'm not saying we have to put people out to die, we could meet both needs. The problem is, our system has so many layers of profiteering, and is overburdened caring for people who have no intention of ever paying for services rendered.
And this is what always happens when you put people in a position where they spend other people's money on things they are not personally using. No one ever spends other people's money as efficiently as their own, and so big government will always engage in wasteful spending, no matter who's running it and no matter what the money is spent on.
Every single Democratic presidential candidate agreed that America should be giving free healthcare to illegal aliens. The cash that I paid for the delivery of my child will be going, in part, to deliveries of illegal alien children. What a great system we have. Truth is, we already have socialized medicine and a welfare state. It's just that you're paying for all of it and not getting any of the benefits.
And that is what always happens when government intervention prevents the price mechanism from working. Here's what no one on any political debate stage ever wants to discuss. Regardless of how strongly we believe that every man, woman, and child deserves healthcare, it doesn't change the fact that healthcare stems from a limited pool of resources. No flick of a government pen can create doctors, hospitals, and medications out of thin air. If government just kept its dirty hands out of the matter and allowed individuals to seek to meet their own healthcare needs, rising and falling prices would communicate where the greatest needs were and move the necessary resources to those places because of the profit incentive. Further, competition amongst providers would drive prices down. However, when government steps in and stops this process from working by taking price considerations away from the consumers, forcing competition out of the market through regulatory capture, or outright seizing control of the entire industry, it only leads to an increase of demand without a corresponding increase in supply. This inevitably leads to an increasingly wasteful system where patients truly in need go untreated, while others see their tax dollars wasted on unnecessary treatments that they never agreed to pay for. I'll ask you again, James. Why are you so eager to advocate bigger government when every problem you've referenced so far was caused by big government? Anyways, we'll pick it up there in part 2 of this response. But for all those who will be rushing to Allsup's defense, I leave you with this question. The same government that has the power to give you everything you want is a government that has the power to take everything that you have. Once you've got a strong central government that's doing everything you want it to do, what's your solution going to be when it turns on you? And that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as well as hit the bell to receive notifications so that you never miss an upload. And if you're a fan of my channel, please consider supporting me on Subscribestar, Bitbacker, or Patreon to receive special rewards. All links can be found in the About section of my website, my2centsvideos.com.